Welcome to the We Rock DM podcast, your source for all things digital marketing. Join hosts Daniel Bissett and Trisha Olberg as they explore the latest trends and share their expertise on how to succeed in the digital age. Tune in for expert advice on search engine optimization, social media marketing, and content strategy. We make kick-ass stuff kick-ass. So join us and learn how to rock your digital marketing game.
I'm Trisha Olberg, and I am so excited to introduce our guest today, Trina Blair. Trina is a globally recognized thought leader in entrepreneurship and international business expansion. As the founder and CEO of FD Global Connections, she's been instrumental in helping U.S. companies successfully launch into the Australian markets and beyond. Her deep experience across corporate leadership, startup mentoring, and global business strategy makes her one of the most respected voices in the international growth space. Welcome, Trina. I'm so excited that you're here.
Trisha, I'm so happy to be here as well. Thank you for the opportunity. Really thrilled to be here.
Well, I'm going to start out by telling everybody how we met, because I think it's kind of a fun story. Yeah. I met Trina at the Women in Business Stevie's Awards last fall, and we were sitting at the same table. And I knew who you were before you knew who I was. Yeah, because I was the chair. I was the chair of the media judging committee, and I had judged your book. So I decided to not say anything to you until later, right?
Yes.
But I remember when I was judging your book, I was thinking to myself, if there is any woman who deserves a gold, it's Trina. I was super impressed. I don't remember every entry that I judged, but that one I remembered. So I was not surprised at all when you won the gold. That was not a surprise.
Oh, Trisha, thank you so much. It was... and I'm not sure, probably the look on my face when my name was announced. I was with my dear friend and colleague, Jen Byrne, and I think she literally had to get me to stand up because I was in so much shock that I'd actually won it. It was my first book, and I'm thinking, I'll put it out there to the world and see, if amazing people like Trisha pick it up. And so it was an amazing moment, truly. Yeah. And then afterwards, I came back to the table after accepting the Gold Stevie, and you said, "Oh, by the way, I was one of your judges." So incredible. That's how we met.
Yeah, that's how we met. And that was such a great night, and you did amazing. I remember watching up there on stage. You had such great things to say. So let's talk about your business and what prompted that book. Go ahead and explain to the audience what your business is about.
Yeah, so I started my business 11 years, and there's a bit of a story about how it started. So I was in corporate, international executive. I lived and worked in Australia. I also lived and worked in New York, and I worked in financial services, in travel, and I love New York. In fact, I'm in New York as we speak.
Yeah, me too.
And when I left, decided to leave corporate, I thought, okay, I want to be a company director. So I went to the Australian Institute of Company Directors, did their intensive course, passed all the exams, and then I thought I was done. But no, there was a graduation ceremony, and my husband literally pushed me out the door to say, "You are going to the graduation ceremony." Now, I wasn't 24 again, Trisha. This wasn't my first graduation. So anyway, the short story is I went along to the graduation ceremony. We're all sitting in line, like 24-year-olds, waiting for our name to be called. And the person next to me turned to me and he said, "So what's your pitch?" And I said, "Payments, travel, lived and worked in New York." That's all I said. And he turned and he said, "Here's my business card. You need to call me tomorrow." I go, "Oh, okay. And then the ceremony started. I rang Richard the next day, and he was a company director for a payments development software company that created the very first global distribution system in the world. And they needed to establish an office in New York. And so he said, "Can you help us?" So that was my first client. I helped them get established in New York, did their go-to market strategy, which I know we're going to talk about later. I flew backwards and forwards to New York. I found them their office space. I did all of their business registration. I opened up my network to them, so business development. And as that was going on, there were other leaders. I was doing some posting, a few postings on LinkedIn. Other leaders were coming to me going, hey, we hear you're doing this for this organization. Can you help us as well? That's how my business started. So just those three words. Yeah. Financial
Wow.
and New York. That was it.
You just never know where the connections are going to happen, right?
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And then over the years, it's been a consulting business. So this is the journey of the book that's coming up. So in the consulting business, COVID, lockdown, I thought I need to scale my business because I'm getting inquiries from all over the world about, utilizing our consulting services. And we've developed a number of proprietary services based on our experience. And I thought, how am I going to scale the business? I thought, I'll write a book. I was locked down in Australia. We had, like everyone around the world, we had really strict lockdowns. So I thought it'd just be a 6-month quick, draft of a book, send it to a publisher, and it magically works. Was I wrong? And so 3.5 years later, learning all about, but first of all, how hard it is to write well.
Yeah.
Really, really hard to write well. So second of all, the actual process of writing the book I had to learn. So the journey of writing, the editing, the publishing was something I learned as I was going. So I had so many people that were helping me. And then as I was writing, my consulting business was really Australia, New York. But I was getting clients coming to me from all over the world. So my book is actually agnostic. So if you're a leader going from the UK to Singapore, you can use my book. If you're going from US to South America, you can use my book. So the title of the book is Decoding Global Growth, How Successful Companies Scale Internationally. And that's been phase 2 of me scaling my business. And we'll get to phase 3 in a moment, I'm sure.
Yeah. We can relate to how difficult it is to write a book. We wrote a WordPress book, and we started out with this 6-month timeline, right? We're going to do this. Yeah. Year and a half later.
Right.
It's a hard thing to do well. And you certainly did it well. So
thank you.
it's such a very interesting topic too.
Yeah, and like you, there was no chat GPT, so it is out there, our words. They're no one else's words. And so that's what I mean. Good writing is really hard. I hope we don't lose that, that skill as AI begins to infiltrate all parts of our work life.
Yeah, we could have a lot of conversations about AI. We have a lot of opinions about AI. We use it, but we use it, in the waves and as a tool.
Yes.
But going back to so you published your book, and that was part 2 of your business. So the first part was this business where you're helping people establish their presence to have are you primarily helping people in New York? Is that where they're setting up, or can it be anywhere? You said it's agnostic.
Yeah, it's anywhere. So originally my business was Australia to New York, but actually over the 11 years on the consulting side of my business, we've launched businesses from Australia right across the US. So I do a lot of work with the team in Minnesota who are brilliant, done work with teams right across the US.
Mm-hmm.
But the book is, as it was being edited, one of the editors said to me, who had built a business in the UK, had said to me, this book isn't only for Australia and United States. Any leader that is looking to go global, this book is relevant for. So that it's agnostic in terms of which country you're looking to scale into.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm so curious because I know you got your first lead, how you got your first lead. How do you get leads now? And I know this is part of the marketing piece that we're going to talk about, but I am very curious to know how you get leads.
Well, having had my business for 11 years, it's all referrals now.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so, but the journey of a business is really fascinating. So there is a natural business life cycle that all businesses go through. We have the prototype, the startup, the scale up, the growth, and the maturity.
Hmm.
And there are different stages, as you'd appreciate, of marketing and activity and building your brand as you go through that cycle.
Hmm.
And I remember clearly with FD Global Connections, my consulting business, is that the first 2 years were getting really good customers, staying very close to them, delivering 110% to get a great case study, get a great testimonial. And so for the first 2 years of my business, that's what we focused on. Small number of customers, but ultimately to get that validation. And after 2 years, sort of 3 to 5 years, once we had our processes in place, we kind of knew what we were doing. Then, and with those validations, that is when we went to a PR company and we said, this is who we are. These are the testimonials. We're wanting to now build our brand out more broadly across Australia. So we engaged a PR company, and that's when we got on mainstream television, mainstream media more generally. And we also really started to ramp up the LinkedIn, the social media. I have to say, I love LinkedIn. It's my go-to tool. But in terms of other social media, I've had some consultants say to me, "Oh, you must be on TikTok. You must be on, whatever the others are." I'm not on any of them. I'm on X, but I don't really do a lot with X. LinkedIn is. So, so from a marketing perspective and a brand perspective, it was at that 3 to 5 year point that we really started pushing and sharing our value propositions along with the testimonials and the case studies. And as I say, Trish, it's been all referrals.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like,
it's what you said though about building that foundation. That's what you built your referrals on.
yes,
And I mean, you don't get referrals unless you have a good product. So we have to start with that. So you
exactly.
you figured out what product people needed. You found, it sounds like you found maybe a niche where there weren't a lot of players. Would you say that's true?
That is absolutely true. And I still see that. So there's enormous focus and investment in the startup ecosystem in the US, all around the world, you name any country. There is now a recognition, and I think it's as a result of the maturity of startup ecosystems. In Australia, it's been there for about 10, 12 years now. The maturity of the startups are such that they're now looking for that scale up capability. So, how do I approach my business now that I need to scale? So, going out of Australia or out of the UK, what are the skill sets that I need as the founder? Do I want to actually be the founder to now grow my business internationally? Having done it nationally, it's a massive undertaking to go global.
Oh yeah. I
And
can't even imagine what
yeah,
would be involved. That would be
exactly.
a lot
Yeah.
of challenges. And so you help them go anywhere globally. I know, again, you said you're agnostic. So anywhere globally.
Right. So this is phase 3 of my business, the new generation of my business, which is my online academy.
Okay.
So what we've done is again, to scale my business, right? So I've taken the book and in the book, as you know, we've got a lot of frameworks, we've got lots of case studies, we've digitized it and it's now in courses in FD Global Academy. So if you are anywhere in the world and you're looking for a course on is my business capable and does it have the capacity to scale, in the academy is an audit that you can do. So the audit takes about 30 minutes. And at the end of the audit, you will get a report for your business as to its scalability.
Oh, wow.
Now, to give you an idea, Trish, of what that looks like in my consulting business, right, which is where it started, that is a 6-week engagement. So on the consulting side, it's for 6 weeks. On FD Global Academy, it takes you about 2 hours altogether. And you get a really good report. It shows you where your strengths are, traffic light green, traffic light yellow, you're doing okay. Traffic light red, don't scale until you fix these areas in your business because you won't succeed. So
Yeah.
that's the report that you'll get out of the academy about an hour after you've done the survey.
What a great idea. How long did it take you to develop the academy?
Oh,
Yeah, I can imagine because we've also done courses.
right.
Yeah.
It's taken a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's taken a year. So there's lots of videos that I've done. There are presentations. There are webinars. I must get you in as a guest for the academy, by the way.
I would love to.
There's we do interviews with CEOs, but as well we've got a community, and so it's an active community. Sarah's our community manager, and if there are questions from those going through the courses, Sarah's there answering those. We do live webinars, live coaching as well. So it's 3 weeks old. We've only just launched it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, really, really keen to open it up to all the leaders are looking to go global.
Okay, so I can see how all these pieces fit together for your business. You have your academy, which sounds like an amazing way to figure out if you have the type of business that could scale globally potentially, and you put that academy together to really help streamline that process. That's a good
Yeah,
starting point for people. And
yeah,
now you have this community that you're building where you can all talk to each other and ask questions. And then you have your book, which is a reference for that academy and for your business, and then you have your consulting business. So
right.
all three things working together.
They do.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
they do.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
And
it.
and it has been a journey. When I first started FD Global Consulting, it was, this is what I'm going to do. This is it. I had kind of a twinkle of an idea about a book, and I thought, oh no, way too hard, which I think I want a lot of people way too hard. But then COVID, and I just thought I'm just going to take the time, see how I go, and now the academy. It's really interesting. I feel like I've come full circle because my very first qualification out of university was as a teacher.
Oh,
And so now with the academy, I feel like I've come full circle in, education and transferring knowledge and providing courses and, all the mentoring and the coaching that goes along with that. So I'm deeply satisfied about how I've come back to that at the
yeah.
moment.
Yeah, I can see how your educational background would help your entire business. I feel like a lot of business owners start out in education, like really good business owners. There's so much you
Right.
can learn from that, from teaching other people, and then you apply that to a business.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
really true in digital marketing as well.
Yes, yes.
So I want to talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship because we do have a lot of listeners who are looking for advice in entrepreneurship, how to start a business. A lot of students. Daniel teaches digital marketing courses and also marketing courses up at UT, and we used to teach a digital marketing boot camp together. That's how we met, and
Right. Nice.
so many people start out in digital marketing because they do have a business they want to grow, and it
Mm,
can be so difficult to figure out how to do that.
yeah.
I love what you said again about how you built that foundation and then you started your digital marketing, um, because it's really true. When you're marketing, you have to have something to point to,
Right.
right?
Right.
You have to have something to point to, and you've been successful at this, at figuring out these building blocks, how to create this funnel.
Right.
So now you're going to be promoting your book, your consulting business, and your academy.
Right.
How do you plan on? What is your marketing strategy for those three pieces as far as any way you're marketing, digital marketing for sure, social media, LinkedIn, you said that that's your main channel, which makes sense, business to business. It sounds
Right.
like you're doing TV spots too. Just what's your plan for now that you have these three pieces in place
Yes.
for marketing?
Yes. That's a really great question. So I feel with the consulting business, we've got the brand, we've built the brand.
Yeah.
And so again, the referrals, as long as I continue to be present on LinkedIn, as long as I continue to be present at conferences, doing keynotes on panels, as long as I keep um, my brand in the market. And I find that it is a combination of hosting on LinkedIn. We also have our EDM, which we use. As long as I remain visible in as a brand for the business, and I'm talking about the business, and that won't change. My messaging about the consulting side, that won't change. I feel we can continue with, success with the way that we've been doing that.
What
Yeah,
you're talking about in the digital marketing world is brand awareness.
exactly. Yes. So
and,
you're
and
the expert on the brand side, so you've got all the right language.
well, and to be honest, that can be the hardest. That's hard for some clients to wrap their head around because it's not always linked to a conversion or a sale, right?
Right. Yes.
And it can be frustrating sometimes when you feel like you're spinning your wheels. I know that you travel a lot. I know that you're going to these conferences and I can see you're probably making amazing connections. But sometimes you don't see those connections playing out until later. And it's this, right? And sometimes it's also similar to when you're posting on LinkedIn or you're putting out. Do you have a newsletter? I'm just curious. Do you email marketing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It can be really frustrating sometimes to feel like you're putting so much out and you don't always know
You
how
don't get the
much.
response back, and
Yeah.
you're really not sure if it's worthwhile and so forth. Absolutely. Let me tell you a story, and it came to fruition last night. So I'm in New York, as you know, Trish. Uh, 7 years ago, I was introduced to, it's Doug. I won't give you his full name because I haven't spoken to him that I'm going to talk to about him here. 7 years ago, I was introduced to Doug here in New York. And we went out, we had a lunch and got to know each other. And he was telling me about an organization that he was beginning to do some volunteer work with, mentoring and so forth. And he said, once it's fully funded, so it's a city funded idea back then, he said, once it's fully funded, it would be great, Trina, if when you're in New York, that you could run some workshops. I said, yeah, absolutely. So COVID, in the middle, and then Doug and I kept in contact. Now, City Hall in New York was funded by the City Economic Development Corporation. I think there are about 9 or 10 floors, and it's for entrepreneurs. It's got some really beautiful space venue, and it's got investors there. It's got workspace for entrepreneurs. And so a couple of months ago, Doug reached out and he said, hey, Trina, remember that conversation all those years ago about wanting to get you to do some workshops at City Hall? Or Civic Hall, my apologies. I said, yeah. He said, well, we're up and running. And so I've run a series of 2 workshops. So one was virtual from Australia, and the last one was last night in person. That was a conversation that took place 7 years ago. And so to your point, Trish, you don't know where these conversations will go.
Yeah.
What is important is, I remember Doug was on our newsletter, and so he was keeping engaged by virtue of that newsletter. He could see what we were doing. And it was just a quick email like, hey, Trina, we're now up and running it. And would you be interested in, doing those workshops that we talked about all those years ago? So brand awareness is really important. Absolutely.
Yes.
Maintaining that.
And that was a great story and a great example. You never know where that touch is going to to produce a lead later on 7 years ago.
Yes.
That you need to have, see, this is the hard thing sometimes for small business owners, especially.
Yes.
Brand awareness is just making sure that people know that you're out there and you're working on your business. You have to look like you're doing things, right? So
Yeah.
when the time comes where they have an opportunity, they're going to be, oh, Trina would be a great person to talk to about this project.
Right.
And you just never know when that's going to happen. So it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
cost.
it can be frustrating because there's always that pressure on generating the revenue or getting the new contract, paying your expenses in a business. There's always that pressure to win the deal because you need to keep your business viable. I get how difficult that is. But to your point, the whole keeping your brand alive and keeping it present, you may not feel that you're getting that progress, but trust me, I know from my own experience that you are, and to just keep going. The other thing that I would say in terms of my early days for building my business was I was really, and I'd love your feedback on this, Trish, because I'm not sure that I've still nailed it, but I was really concerned about, is it my business brand that I should be developing and promoting, or is it my personal brand? Because coming in out of corporate, people knew me from a corporate perspective, but they didn't know from a small business perspective. So I was always never sure, do I push my personal brand or do I promote my business brand? So what are your thoughts on that?
That is a really good question. And for you, for what you're doing, I would say both are important, especially as a consultant. As a consultant, people are working with you one on one, right?
Yes.
You are the head. Do you have other people working with you, or are you typically the person working with the company?
I have other people, yes.
But are you training those people directly? How does that work? What does your team look like?
Yeah, so I bring in consultants and specialists in particular areas as I need them.
Okay.
So if I've got a health tech company that I'm working with, I'll bring in a consultant that specializes in that area, and they will work with me to deliver and develop what the client's looking for. For the academy, I have a community manager, a marketing and community manager. She specializes in that as well. So yeah, so that's the way that I manage my business.
So you have some help, but
Yes.
you are still the voice of your company. Would you say you are the voice?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you are the brand. It's connected. And I do think that, especially for what you're doing, consulting, I think that is important. So I would say both are important. And the academy, this is why I was asking about your marketing strategy for the academy, because that could almost be a separate thing that it sounds like it could actually be a lead generator for you.
Mm.
If somebody was taking this course, maybe they didn't know a lot about you yet, Trina. Maybe they hadn't read your book yet. If they took this course, which sounds like it would be a really great way for them just to measure the scalability of their company,
Right.
then that leads to you. So you could almost market that separately. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes. Yeah.
That'll be something to think about as you move forward.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, yeah, because all the courses, as we talked about, they have come from the consulting company. There's another course in there which is typically a 6-month engagement, and we've condensed that into a 6-hour course. And yeah, and then a lead gen, back to the consulting business. Absolutely.
Because from what you've been saying,
Mm.
most of your business has come through leads and referrals.
Yes.
So you're not really getting out there into the cold leads, which is so difficult for people to do. And it's been wonderful that you haven't had to try to do that too much, but it's still something you want to do if you expand. You have to figure out how to get into the cold leads. So the academy could be your path.
Yes.
That could be your path right there.
Yes. Maybe I did it the other way. Maybe I should have done it the other way around.
No.
My academy, and then I did the consulting, generate the leads through there.
But you had to have all the knowledge to build the academy. So I think, right? So you did it the right way. However you did it, it's working.
Yes.
But I am just thinking that could be a generator for you for cold leads. Globally.
Yes.
It's your academy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then back to figuring out where to market. The one thing that I always tell clients, back to, it can be frustrating when it feels like you're doing all these different things, and how much do you need to put in the funnel, and what things do you need to put in the funnel to get that little drop out the end.
Yeah.
Have you found that you've tried some things and other things and really figured out where it makes sense for you to put your time and effort? You did mention that you know that LinkedIn is the primary social media channel. What other things have you discovered along the way, learned as you've grown your business, what works for you and what doesn't?
And so while we're talking about social media, I mentioned at the top that uh, in addition to LinkedIn, I'm on X or Twitter, but I found that that's not particularly a good lead generator for the business.
Okay.
So we used to do the posts on LinkedIn and then do the equivalent posts on X or Twitter as it was back then. But the response that we would get from LinkedIn was much greater than what it was on X. So we've pulled back on X, I would say. But what we're now doing with LinkedIn is, and again, what was noticed for the Academy is it's the videos on LinkedIn. So we're now using Loom. I'm doing more videos, and they will be becoming more and more present as we continue building awareness of the Academy.
Yeah.
So the other piece around LinkedIn was we noticed that the shorter the posts, the better they are. And also we created, obviously I have my profile, but we also created FD Global Connections group page. And so we're building up the followers on that. And I'm always tagging FD Global Connections group page and vice versa. So we're making the association and continue that association between my company and myself. And the other thing is that, and when I'm working with social media teams and interns particularly, because I love supporting them,
Yeah.
is tagging. Always tag those in your network that the post is relevant to. Always tag, because what you're doing is two things. One is it should be relevant to the person that you're tagging, so you're sharing knowledge with them by tagging them. Also, if they then they're sharing it with their network. So not only are you getting visibility on your network, but you're also getting visibility on their network. So that's one of the great things about LinkedIn is the ability to share and have exposure to networks that you perhaps otherwise wouldn't, have access to. So um, so yes, with LinkedIn, I understand, and I was in a presentation earlier this week that the algorithms that LinkedIn are now using are based more on video than on text. So I think that's a really important area. The other thing that I've done from day one actually is on my website, FD Global Connections website, my consulting business, on the very front page, you will get a pop-up which says, would you like to subscribe to FD Global Connections newsletter? And that feeds directly into our HubSpot list. And our HubSpot list is generated as the base for our EDM. And so when we do our EDM, we've just got everything streamlined, automatic interface between our website, HubSpot list, EDM, put the content in, press send, and it goes out. So that was something we did really, really early on for two reasons. One is we wanted to get the traffic and build those EDM lists, but also as a small business, you want to streamline as much and automate as much as you can, because you don't have time to go, all the administration you have to do is enough. There are tools that you can use to automate the interface between all of the systems that you need in your business.
You have done your homework. You told me that you don't know much about digital marketing. I think you do
Uh,
know a lot about digital marketing,
well,
Trina.
it's trial and error, Trish. Trial and error.
Which it tends to be. Even as an agency, it's trial and error for us, trying to figure out what works best for both our
Yeah.
agency and our clients.
Yes.
You have definitely, I have always noticed that your LinkedIn posts, I can tell that you know what you're doing. And LinkedIn is it's a different kind of social media platform than the others,
Mm.
where timing is really important. I think that you have an hour for somebody to make a comment on your LinkedIn post before the algorithm decides it's not interesting enough for people.
See, I didn't know that. There you
Yes,
go.
yes. And also because it's a business platform. They do want you posting during business hours. That I have noticed before. If I try to post outside business hours, I tend to get less engagement. And then I'm like, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah, that's really interesting, Trish,
Yeah.
because in fact, in this workshop earlier this week, we had this very conversation. So it was, when is the most popular time that you have found to post,
Mhm.
right? And for me, when I'm in Australia, the most popular time that people respond to posts, Sunday night.
Really?
Yes, getting
Is it
ready for the week, getting their mind, ready for the meeting on the first Monday morning meeting. Yeah, they're looking at their calendars and getting ready for the week, and LinkedIn is apparently part of that. So I used to be really uncomfortable in doing our EDMs on Friday afternoon. Never do them on weekends, but for Friday afternoon, I'm thinking, oh, who's going to read them on Friday afternoon? We don't do it for that. We do that for the Sunday night. So that's when we get the most, yeah, the
that
most.
is an interesting observation. And
Mm,
that tracks. I would say that I find that even Instagram is that way for me. If I post something Sunday night on Instagram, it tends
yeah,
to get, I think people, like you said, people are sitting around, they're thinking, okay, I got to get started tomorrow. They're
right,
browsing social media.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That
Yeah,
that's great advice. And I also what you said about video, we have found that is why we podcast, Trina, because
uh,
we have these clips from our podcast that we can post to LinkedIn as one of our channels too, LinkedIn and
right,
Instagram, and
right.
it's really great content. You should
Yes,
consider podcasting. I could actually see you doing that. You'd have some very interesting podcast episodes based on what you're doing. It's an
yeah.
idea for you.
Thank you, thank you.
One more thing, right? One more thing to add to your plate. But again, it's about thinking about working smarter, not harder.
Yes,
So you
yes.
figure out what social media
Mhm,
and
mm,
marketing tech, you figure out what
right.
works for your business, and that's what you focus on, and you start to weed out the things that are just taking up your time.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, yes.
Okay, Trina. So back to your academy really quick.
Mm.
Uh, is there something you would like to share with our audience about your academy? Because it sounds amazing, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to check that out. What should they do?
Yeah, so I'd love everyone to check out the Academy. We have, as I say, it is 3 weeks old. We are a baby. We're taking baby steps. So we only have 5 courses in there at the moment, but we continue to build more out. But what I want to do is offer listeners a coupon to access one of the courses, and it'll probably be the scalability audit, because I think if even if you're not going global, it's still relevant because you do need fundamental foundations for scaling, whether that is, from one state to another in the United States, or even if you're going offshore. So what I'll arrange is for listeners to get a 50% discount coupon for the global scalability audit. And yeah, we can share that with everybody, and hope to see people in the academy. You will get a report at the end, which shows you where your traffic light features are with your business.
That
Yes,
sounds great.
yeah,
Okay, we will post a link to that on our LinkedIn page and also in the comments when we publish the YouTube version of this podcast. And that sounds like a great offer.
yes, yeah. Very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Trina, so much for being my guest. Again, it was so great to see you.
you
Maybe I'll
too.
run into you in New York again one of these days or
Absolutely.
Australia.
Or Australia.
Come and visit you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Trish. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you again.
Thanks for
You're
tuning
welcome.
in to the We Rock DM podcast. We hope you found our discussions on digital marketing and web design and development helpful and informative. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast to stay up to date on the latest trends and strategies in the world of online business. We'll see you in the next episode of We Rock DM, where we make kick-ass stuff kick-ass.